Nice to see you again on this beautiful day. This time with a quote by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And it goes like that. Instead of waiting until you die, die now. Die now to the personal pronouns. Die now to your big ego trip and story of myself and how horrible or how great or how wondrous. And by dying now, wake up to the beauty of this moment and realize how much bigger you are than your story. And realize how much bigger you are than your story. So, Peyton, how to die to one's own story and what can we do to enjoy the present moment?
Wonderful quote. Great to be back. And Jon Kabat-Zinn is one of those authors that I don't think I've ever read any of his entire books, but I've heard so many of his quotes, and they really seem to resonate. This one being a core practice of our lives and the way that we relate to ourselves and through which we relate to the world ultimately is this sense of identity or narrative about ourselves, or this grasping on and trying to defend a set and series of ideas, self-perceptions, and a self-image that we want to defend with ourselves and others that kind of implicitly is ruling a lot of our motivations and behaviors. And it's very societally conditioned to be this way and to treat ourselves in this way as some reputation that we must manage, or ultimately that our position in life is being this manager or PR manager even in the head that's trying to put up a certain facade and trying to convince ourselves of certain things, trying to replay evidence in our mind that we are the way that we want, and try to suppress evidence in our mind of that time when we weren't that cool, when we think we're cool, or when we weren't that smart, when we think we're smart. And this is a ton of energy. It's kind of, when we pay attention to it, it's a constant battle that leads to a perpetual feeling of dissatisfaction because we can't ultimately hold on to any of these characteristics about ourselves. We can't ultimately set in stone that I'm smart or I'm funny or I'm charismatic or I'm this or I'm that or I'm successful or whatever, because we are there all the times when we are not that way. We are there and we see that it is actually not so black and white that I'm smart because I did that dumbass thing yesterday, because I see myself come up short in this arena of my life because of this, because of that. And if we try to superimpose a black and white, I am smart, I am so good at managing situations or whatever, then it becomes more and more cognitively dissonant when we observe contrary evidence that will inevitably arise over the course of an ever-changing life, when things are this way sometimes, things are that way sometimes, things don't stay static like our narrative wants it to be. And having a looser relationship, at least, even if we are not completely free, and we probably won't forget about some of these labels that society puts on us or that we repeat out of habit. But at a first step, we can at least hold them with a little bit looser grip, which can provide a nice degree of freedom that we can take advantage with to further work with this kind of stuff, or further navigate this stuff, or have a more nuanced and flexible relationship with these concepts. What do you think about the practice of this, and perhaps the way that it's kind of a dance rather than something that we lock in and always hold?
Yeah, well, the practice of it is like regaining your inner space again, so that the narrative which has been formed in your mind, or which you formed yourself, it doesn't hold you so tight into this tiny little box which you created yourself to sit in and to experience the world from. Because the harder your story is, the less flexible you can tell yourself the stories, the more hold up, the more locked up you are inside your own prison. And you are not only the prison guard, but also the maker of your own prison. And if you just realize that from time to time, that the stories and the dramas in your life have so much to do with stories and how you tell them to yourself, then there's this practice of mindfully taking in all your senses, for example, mindfully watching your thoughts. And you don't become perfect at that. You never will be. But what you do is you re-engage into the moment of and see how things are right now and how you think right now. You kind of detach yourself from the things that are happening within your mind instead of really being inside your own self and living inside your story. And it's easier said than done. That's why practices of mindfulness meditation, for example, are pretty valuable, because you learn how to detach yourself from certain kinds of like thoughts that try to convince you that you are a certain kind of way, that you this is yours, or you own that, and therefore things should be that way. And everything that violates this story causes yourself pain, because it's a violation of the structure within your head. And it's similar to physical pain, and therefore as humans, we are wired as well to avoid pain and try to do everything in our power to avoid pain and increase pleasure. And these are also structures which make that happen. Uh, so we try to refit reality into our narrative we have. And therefore we have this a loop going on of thoughts running around in a crazy roller coaster, keeping us awake at night. And like it happened to me yesterday, for example, just over one email where the issue was around $5 US or francs, and it was like not the amount of money that was the problem, but it was that I felt disrespected by it. And even more so because I didn't read the email's sender name, because it was automatically hidden. So then I unhid it, and therefore I lost half an hour's sleep over a train of thoughts, and and if you reflect, sometimes you see that these kinds of things are better to be mitigated. What do you think about that risk mitigation strategy, and how does it work for you when it works for you?
Yeah, you make such a great point in the sense that where does all this stuff live in? Where does our narrative live in? Where does the self-image live in? Where does our self-concern and our stories that we tell that get us worked up and angry at 4 a.m. or worked up and fearful at 4 a.m. or whatever? It's thought. It's this constant play of language and imagery that superimposes over our senses. And when we look for it, when we look at what is the next thought that arises right now as an exercise, if I'm really paying attention, we can see that they're ephemeral. We can see that they have no substance. We can see that they don't stick around, that they come, they flash, and they say this, and they show this, and then they pass away, and then they're replaced by something next. And we are constantly mesmerized by this continual cacophony that occurs in front of our awareness pretty much all the time, nonstop, with no off button, that most of us actually identify with most of the time and think that we are the thinker because we haven't paid enough attention to the mechanics of thought and how they arise in our mind. And like you say about the prison, we are in this crazy dilemma where almost everybody is trapped in some sense. We are living in a prison made of clouds, so to speak. We are constantly feeling contracted and constrained, and like we are fighting this inevitable struggle of a dissatisfied or insecure PR manager or self narrator or something that's trying to fundamentally struggle against reality. And this is occurring when we really pay attention, when we really look, where is this going on? Where is that conversation that you had yesterday that was working you up? Where is this concern about the future that I have that causes me to be uptight even when I'm going on a hike or doing something, it's in thought. Thought is where this is occurring. And we have this predicament that is the best analogy, in my opinion, to it, or for me, is being dreaming that you're in a prison. And when you're in a prison, you're looking around and you see the guard, you try to convince him, you try to coax him into letting you out, you try to saw at the bars, you look and you plot escape plans. You think if you take a spoon, maybe I could dig through here, maybe I could make a secret tunnel. Maybe I think about how when they change the guards, maybe I could reach in, grab the key, get out, blah, blah, blah. We are constantly trying to do things by the logic of the dream. We are constantly trying to have a better story about ourselves. We are constantly trying to make other people think something about ourselves. We are trying to be respected. Why do we want to be respected so bad? Have we ever asked ourselves that? It goes without saying. We want to be respected so bad by other people. We want to think good things about ourselves. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to have a self-narrative, a self-story, a self-image, and a concept of the way that we are perceived by the others that we respect or want to be accepted by. And we never inspect the actual situation that we are in. We never wake up and realize that, oh shit, I am dreaming that I'm in a prison. And if I'm dreaming that I'm in a prison, the answer is not to saw at the bars. The answer is not to negotiate with the guard. If I'm dreaming that I'm in a prison, the answer is to wake up. The answer is to wake up. And when we look at thought, when we really can learn to pay attention and see that, oh shit, this thought is arising kind of like a sound arises. I really don't know where it comes from. I'm not sitting up behind my thoughts in a room of all possible thoughts upstream of this and saying like, oh, this is the next thought that I'm going to think. And this is the next thought that I'm going to think. I'm going to choose this next thought and then I'm going to play it in front of my brain. And then I'm going to choose the next thought after that. I'm going to just sit and I'm going to constantly be in my control room of my thoughts. And I'm just going to grab this one because this is the next thing that I want to think about. It doesn't work that way. Like if you think it works that way, stop thinking for 10 seconds. You can't do it. Almost nobody can stop thinking for 10 seconds. And it shows like we're not actually in control of this. And when we pay attention to thoughts, we see that they don't have to have that much control over us either. It's this constant mirage of, I guess, our culture and our species that acts as if we need to be at the beck and call and at the mercy of whatever story happens to be playing through our head at this moment. And the answer when you're in the prison is not to try to saw through the bars. The answer is to wake up. And when we do wake up, when we can get to the point where, oh, there's 10 seconds in between my thoughts, I actually can listen to a brief and subtle silence in the gap between my thoughts. And I can notice that space. I can notice the freedom and the relief that I experience when I'm between my thoughts. I can feel the palpable ease of not being caught up in the cacophony of my self-image and not actively trying to grasp and hold on and crave and pursue and this and that and this and that. We can see that, oh shit, I was dreaming that I was in a prison. I can wake up and I don't have to spend 10 hours sawing through the bars trying to improve the thoughts to wake up. I can actually just wake up right now. We can directly access this freedom when we cultivate it and we learn how to. But we first need to realize that we're dreaming in this prison of thoughts. We first need to realize the reality of our circumstance, our true nature, before we can have access to any of this. What are your thoughts in terms of the sawing through the bars versus just waking up from the dream? And obviously, both of these are things that we need to use in our life. These are both different means and different ways of approaching this, and we can't go without improving the dream as well at times. But how do you think about the direct versus the gradual paths that we have available to us here?
Well, first of all, it's a great kind of metaphor for realizing this, that there is a shortcut. There is not an easy way, but a simple one. Like, it's really simple to just substitute everything which is inside your drama to make it insignificant, just through one act of detaching from it. Because the significance is given through the story which runs through your brain, and you instantly can detach from it. And you don't have to die for it like societal people do. because they want to detach from their stories and they see no other way. So you just have to let your ego die, and you just have to re-emerge into the moment. And that takes the awareness and takes the recognition of either very painful moments or a lifelong practice, which also can be intensified and also sometimes neglected. And therefore, this is the intention for this week, is to up the practice, to re-engage in it a little bit more, to practice to let go of things, even if you lose something, even if it's really valuable. It's just stuff. Let go of it. Try to do your best, which is inside your control, but don't tell yourself the story that, oh, how you fucked up again, and oh, what a bad person you are, whatsoever. Just let go. Just don't hold on. Don't be attached too much. And also, I want to practice to listen simply. Like when I'm engaged in a conversation and I think, oh, that was not respectful, then the practice is not to react upon anything you think is maybe disrespectful. Maybe the other person didn't sleep well and didn't find her words to really communicate it in a way that it's impossible to be misunderstood. So everybody has some of these days. So try to have empathy and just listen. Just let it flow through you, whatever you think is coming at you. Maybe I also wanna maybe have 10 minutes of mindfulness each morning, where I train to widen my inner space, so that every monkey which is crazy inside my mind and like punches around doesn't hit any other monkey. So they just can punch around how much they want, and my monkey mind won't engage in any further dramatic increase of adventurous thinking and story time. So it is basically not to fight with reality as it is, just to accept it as it is, and from there on have a better foundation to deal with it. Because our imagination is not reality. What we experience is not reality, because it's shaped through our senses and also shaped through the systems in our brain, which is our belief systems or value systems. Whatever we believe, we actively look into the world and try to find evidence for it. We are all biased that way. We are all human, and we have kind of these biases. And therefore, accepting reality, how it comes to us, but being detached from the stories of whatever come with it, that is a practice which really takes many repetitions, many reps.
Yeah.
So what do you do to encourage yourself to put in these reps, Peyton?
Yeah, the best encouragement to put in the reps of waking up and coming back to balance and snapping out of the prison made of clouds that we find ourselves in is, for me at least, good old fashioned suffering. Good old fashioned make the mistake over and over again, repeat my mistakes, and then see that, oh shit, I'm getting my ass kicked, and then ask myself, like, why am I, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Oh, I'm caught up in my story about myself again. Oh, I want other people to see me in a certain way. Oh, I want to see myself in a certain way. I'm holding on to a narrative about myself. I am the world champion of repeating my mistakes on this, as are many, many of us. And it is kind of a dance of hey, like this is a part of the human condition. We have these crazy ramped up left brains and language talkers in our brains that get ourselves worked up and in loops and going and going and going. And our because of our selected history, because of just how unbelievably useful language has been for planning and for sexual selection, for sure within our species over many, many, many generations. This is a muscle that really does not know how to unflex a lot of times. And speaking for myself, I think that I started off quite imbalanced in the direction of constant thought, constant thinking, constant language. And so for me, my journey still is try to get a little bit faster at bringing awareness to when I fall back into blindness. Try to be a little bit more sensitive to when I'm in the turbulence of trying to grasp and hold on and manipulate the narratives that I have about myself. When I'm treating myself as if I'm some piece of fine china that must be put on a pedestal and defended from attack and polished and I want to be seen a certain way and oh I don't want to come across this way because what would that say about me and oh I didn't feel good about how that thing went. I just am gonna like try to tell a story. I'm just gonna try to shout over it with something that makes me feel really good about myself or whatever. These habit patterns of being a PR manager within our mind, they are so costly, but yet they arise no matter, maybe not no matter how many, I don't think, I think it can be eventually outgrown, but I certainly am not past this where I never have to grapple with it before. So for me, it's a lot about let's pay attention to the cause and effect. Let's see when I'm in the moment of, oh my God, I'm getting my ass kicked. I'm experiencing so much turbulence. And then I pay attention to my thoughts and I'm like, oh, well, let's take a look around. There's oh, I'm blaming somebody else over there. I'm telling somebody a story. I'm telling myself a story about how I'm a victim of what happened here, and I feel bad for myself here. I'm angry at this person, and I'm using the word should, which is a dead giveaway for resisting reality. If I'm saying this person should have done this instead of this, then I'm automatically out of balance and I'm automatically being blind. Like this is just me resisting reality, and it doesn't work. And then I look over here, and there's another story that I'm trying to see myself in a way that I'm really amazing in such or such a way, and there's ego. And I look at this entire array of this kind of sandcastle that I've built around myself of thoughts and self-perceptions that I'm trying so hard to defend. And I realize that I just need to let the waves wash this shit away. This is not a fortress worth defending. This is actually so costly to try to keep all this shit up. And I am paying the cost right now. I am experiencing this turbulence and this suffering because of this constant struggle and activity I have in my mind to defend my thoughts from other thoughts. And I can just drop it. I just don't need this. I can just see that when I let go and I say that, fine, I'm a potato. There's nothing that needs to be defended. There's nothing that needs to be shined a better light on. Anybody can think whatever they want about me. I can think whatever I want about myself. None of it is actually all black and white true. It's all gray areas. And I don't have to be attached to it. I can just drop it. I can just see that this is all kind of a dream anyways, and I don't have to suffer as if I'm in a real prison that's rigid and non-negotiable. So this is a practice that I constantly need, that I need reminded of every single week of my life, at least so far. And maybe someday I'll only need reminded every month. What about you, man? How are you thinking now about your practice and kind of integrating some of this knowledge into the harder phases or the harder weeks of your path?
Well, as always, nature helps a lot.
Oh yeah.
Engaging in nature just resets yourself, and you detach yourself automatically from all stress and worry. If you have something green or something liquid like a river or a lake around you, that helps a lot. And besides that, I got the same medicine to take, like good old suffering. But as you said, it's the basic human condition to engage with that. And yeah, but if we want to somehow transcend the human condition a little bit more, like our species did with technology, but now only with ourselves in kinds of the spiritual way, to really disengage from your narrative and from the soap opera of your life, to really enjoy it, to really make the most out of it, what you can do. And probably I want to schedule times where I actively reflect that. Maybe even 10 minutes of meditation per day, maybe that could help to have a regular reminder about that. Or some good old suffering, if not.
Why not both?
Yeah. Yeah. So we can ask ourselves, okay, who am I without the narrative, without this story? If you find yourself in pain, try to ask yourself, who am I without that? What changes? Is that really important? Or what stays the same even through the drop of the narrative? And then what is here right now? And how could you enjoy it?
Mm.
And probably it's just like Cattoli said, it's just this one breath. Even if you take one breath without story, without narrative, without attachment, without even the need to or your wish to want to train and practice letting go, or practice breathing, just this one breath, and you are really aware of it, is a better practice than taking all the books in the world on spirituality into yourself, because nothing substitutes your own experience and the practice of your own experience. So may we practice in our own experiences. Maybe drop the narrative and disengage from the roller coaster ride of our ego selves. And maybe find some peace within the big space we can create for ourselves.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm carrying an intention to keep my thoughts and narrative much more in perspective, much more with the sense of I'm looking at this. This is an ephemeral, ever-changing phantom before me. This perception that I have over the narrative of my existence, not so much this is the most serious big deal in the whole world. Everything will always be the outcome of whatever this thing is that happens in front of me. This is the most important thing of all time. And this kind of putting these narratives into perspective and reminding myself that these are just thoughts. This is just language. I am just talking to myself about this, and I can talk to myself about this in 1,000 different ways. And ultimately, the things that come will still largely be mediated between the reality and my perceptions by my thoughts, concept, and mind. And so we have far more power within than we realize, maybe far less power without than we realize, and a great opportunity to wake up and to recalibrate ourselves, to put all of this language and imagery into perspective, into surrender and let go. And that's my intention for today. So with that note, I'm going to get out in nature and practice that side of it. And I'm very much looking forward to that this afternoon. Great talking to you, my friend.
Great talking to you, my friend. Appreciate you very much.
Likewise.
Have fun in nature.
I
Bye.
will. I'll see you on the next one.